This Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive made in Fremont, USA, by all accounts, should have had a terrible paint job. The battery and or motor should have gone kaput, and my personal favourite, it could have just burst into flames at any point. Instead, to the naysayers and the doom and gloomers, it's more than survived 3 long years, and with that in mind, I suspect you're dying to know how much range is remaining at 100% after 3 years and 25,000 miles. For this very video, I've done the obligatory full charge test as I did last year and the year before. Therefore, if you stick around for this new figure, this year's result has generally got me head scratching, but I have a theory on why this year the result has bucked the expected trend. Yet still to this day, I can't believe it's actually cost me just £354 in electricity to cover the whole 25,000 miles. The fuel savings have been off the charts, but it hasn't been the only cost saving. Then there is the paintwork. You can't undertake a full 3-year review without giving it a full wash down combined with fresh footage, can you? How would we analyse the paint chips and scratches and potential paint flaking? This was an area of concern prior to my purchase in December 2020. Finally, there's just the whole driving experience and the car's utility. 3 years in, how has it served my young family as the sole and single car in the household? Many understandably opt for the Model Y these days, but in 2020 it was either the Model 3 or the old S and X. How is the Model 3 working for me, and what's next for 2024? As always, plenty to unpack in today's video, from checking key areas of concern to the general pros and cons of ownership to date. Hopefully you're all locked into today's video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Let's get into this Tesla Model 3 review after 3 years of ownership. I can't wait to discuss this max range. Firstly, I want to touch on the driving experience 3 years on from collection and how it's performed as a family car. Admittedly, this was my first rear-wheel drive driven car, which also happened to have insane torque, but more on that later. Rear-wheel drive cars tend to offer a more sporty-like drive as the vehicle is being pushed rather than pulled like a traditional front-wheel drive vehicle. Being rear-wheel drive, I had some doubts about the handling, particularly around heavy rain and wintry conditions. The problem that I had was this. My thesis wasn't built around it being a rear-wheel drive Tesla, but just another rear-wheel drive car as a whole. For example, I still have memories of passing rear-wheel drive BMWs abandoned on the roads during heavy snowstorms in my front-wheel drive diesel Renault Clio tractor. However, from the very first day, the car's handling has felt absolutely ace. One of the many hidden gems of this car is the traction control. It's simply underrated by many accounts. After 36 months driving and leaning on it a handful of times, I've only felt the back end twitch once. That was because it was just before I replaced these rear wheels and there was standing water as I cornered. Needless to say, I could then feel the traction control bite and regain control of the situation. If that was in difficult conditions and with heavily worn tyres, I would have no issues recommending the rear-wheel drive variant of the Model 3s to viewers who may have the same hesitation that I did. Another supplementary factor is just the low centre of gravity, which makes the car feel super grounded, even during the twistiest of bends. It's a truly fun car to drive, and the steering is very responsive, and the lack of the front motor just makes it feel nimble at the front, even if it's just psychological. The new suspension on the new Tesla Model 3 should help smooth out some of the bumpiness, but otherwise it's thrilling to drive, and the instant torque, it just doesn't wear away with age. Nor does it create any more noise like a traditional petrol motor would, as age starts to knock on the door. The Model 3 should not suffer from the same deteriorating factors as your traditional petrol car. I think the only notable difference with age will probably be max range, but more on that next. So I bet you're dying to know this. I have a 2021 Tesla Model 3 SR Plus, and my battery pack is a high energy dense version, similar to those seen in the long range Model 3s and the performance Model 3s today. It's just a smaller battery capacity. So this is not the more hard-wearing LFP Model 3 that you can buy today. EPA wise, this vehicle's range was rated at around 263 miles when I bought it. And if you're wondering why I'm quoting EPA rated range rather than WLTP, it's because the miles remaining works on the US cycle system, no matter where you are in the world. So considering it would have been 263 miles 3 years ago and over 25 miles have been driven, how much do you think remains as the max rated range today? After year 1, it was 235 miles remaining, and after year 2, it was then 229 miles. So where do you think we stand at this 3 year point? 226, 220, 229 again? Get a figure in mind, let me know if you've guessed it right in the comment section below. In order to do my not so super scientific test, I drove down to my local Tesla supercharger at Foss Park, Leicester, making sure I navigated directly to the supercharger because we want that preconditioning setting to activate ahead of arrival as it's very cold at the moment. Preconditioning will be godsend for those charging speeds. Anyhow, we arrived, plug in, wait, and wait. For those not aware, 0 to 80% achieves a much quicker speed than 80 to 100%, to the point where it takes just as long to get to that final 20% as it was to go from 0 to 80%. To cut a long story short, holy smokes, it was done. 100% rate of charge, materialized in 232 miles. Yes, it actually went up. I somehow managed to gain around 1.5% more miles than last year. Now, this shouldn't usually happen. So how did it happen, Adam? Well, I don't believe it was temperature related, as last year was only like 2 to 3 degrees cooler. So that shouldn't be a big determining factor. I suspect it's because I have been making a conscious effort to utilize the battery health tips noted in my video on the screen above. Now, I believe this has helped rebalance the cells better, and so the battery management systems are more tuned than what they were over a year ago. Another reason I believe this to be true is because last year it took ages to recalculate from 99% to 100%, and this year it was accepting faster speeds at 99%, and they even missed the switch from 99 to 100% on camera. It was that quick this time round. So from year 1 to year 3, it lost a grand total of just 3 miles, around 1.5%. Now, if you're thinking 263 rated miles to 232 miles, that's a mega degradation right there. Well, it displays this lower range to begin with because I told it to from the changes that I made to the wheel covers. These directly affect the real world range of the vehicle, and I want the navigation to be accurate. So if you update the vehicle settings to take into account that you've removed those aero cap wheels that come as standard, as a whole, Tesla generally quote that these aero caps increase aero efficiency by up to 10%. So if we work this backwards, minus 10% from 263, we should see a 100% charge figure of around 236 miles. So roughly speaking, I believe I've lost around 1.7% of my non-aero cap Tesla Model 3 SR Plus range, or 4 miles. Can hardly grumble with that. Pretty sure my petrol powered car will have lost much more efficiency over that same period. The rear wheel drive Model 3s today also have an LFP battery pack, and they should be even more hard-rarer than this beauty that I have today. And I think this is a sensational range performance here. I really did not anticipate that it would increase at all, and I bet you didn't as well. Now, don't lie either, it wasn't expected. Moving on to family utility, as the sole family car, we naturally use the car daily for family errands, and so the rear of the interior is messy to say the least. The kids have left sticky sweets on the seats to my shocking surprise. Thankfully, I love them dearly to overlook this misjudgment. That, and I know that the trick to cleaning these seats is super simple too. Just wipe it down with a cloth, dipped in clean, preferably hot water. That's it. For a bonus, I use a microfiber cloth just to buff the seats a little, and that's it. Keeping it simple, it really does pay off. It's easy to maintain. For the few road trips that we've taken in the lowest range Tesla you can buy, I found there to be ample luggage space, particularly taking advantage of the front when space is tight. I found the front is rarely used, but in moments of need for extra space, or even just hauling dirty goods. It's big enough to have a usage case for sure, it's not just a gimmick. There have been times I wish that the boot was a hatchback, but I brought this car knowing that it wasn't, so I'm not exactly going to play dumb to that. For passenger space, the kids are only small, but they are growing, and so they still use car seats at the moment. As they've gotten older, we've purchased smaller car seats just to give them a little bit more room within the back seats. They rarely felt it to be squish and a squeeze, a cheeky little Easter egg there if you know. However, if we hauled a third passenger in the rear with the rear seats, then yes, it's a little bit tight, particularly buckling in the car seats, but with just 2 car seats, it works perfectly fine. This is where the Model Y would have an upper hand with the hatchback boot and more rear passenger space, but it's not essential. A family of 4 can cope with Model 3 just fine. Moving on to the paintwork. What's the quality and the current condition like? Now, I'm no paintologist, whatever you would call it, but after 3 years, I've had no rust or paint flaking, as some early owners did report. My made in the USA Tesla is holding up great. Is it perfect? No. Any car used daily will not be in a perfect condition, This car has unfortunately been rammed into on multiple occasions and it still lives to tell the tale. I mean, this car is more resilient than you think. I found out the hard way about that and I'd rather I hadn't, but in 2024, rest assured, Paintwork longevity is seriously no different to any other car that you can buy today. It's not some reliability or some weak link in Tesla's offering, as some fraudsters make it out to be. It's literally on par with every other car that you can buy today. Switching to the maintenance to date and general concerns about the upkeep. Well, to date, apart from your typical screen wash top-ups, it's had two Michelin Pilot Sport 4s on the rears. They've lasted around 25,000 miles and he ended up with about 3mm remaining on the tread. Oh, and I've replaced the cabin filters once too. That's it. My MOT test revealed that I'll probably need to replace the front tyres at my next MOT, so that's like 33,000 miles. The brakes are completely intact with minimal wear as we utilise regenerative braking to not just slow the car down, which mitigates most of the brake pedal usage, it also recoups and stores its extra energy in the battery. So apart from the tyre wear, that's again no different to any other car on the market. The condition of the brakes, however, is night and day. There are no reliability concerns to be had. I mean, the battery in the motor is covered for another 5 years as I won't meet the mileage requirements. Otherwise, there are no water pump or cam belt replacements required, as you see with a petrol car. It's around this 3, 4, 5 year mark whereby the difference in maintenance requirements between a Tesla and a petrol motor will be vastly different. Think about your own car ownership experience. This 3, 4, 5 year period is very much when reliability and maintenance does start to creep in for that petrol motor. Whereas I don't feel like there is a negative cliff falling experience with my Tesla at this moment in time. So to summarise and to conclude my Tesla Model 3 review, do I have any regrets after 3 years of ownership of my rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3? Hell no, this car does everything that I ask of it, period. This vehicle was exactly the right choice for me and my family without a doubt. Everyone's opinion and what they require from a vehicle is unique to them, but as our sole car, this does everything that we need it to. Range-wise, all year I've stretched a full charge just a handful of times. It's plentiful and it charges fast enough for what we use over the course of the year. But the overall driving experience is just a real pleasure to drive. From my ownership experience, it's not hard to see why the Tesla Model 3 is loved by so many owners and is the benchmark vehicle together with the Tesla Model Y. When it comes to transitioning to an electric vehicle, let's not forget the experience is only improving and the supercharging network is expanding and software is enhancing the ownership experience and definitely helps those owners who do have the tendency to get bored of cars quickly. You know who you are. So what does 2024 have in store for Animal Informed and family? Well, as we head into our 4th year, I'm not in any immediate rush to swap and change the car. In particular, in Q4, the residual values have seen a sudden drop, and I'm talking about 21 to 22,000 just a couple of months ago to around 17 to 18,000. Now, I think this is primarily down to the whole high interest environment setting in. Q1 of 2024 may be even worse than it is today, but I'm anticipating, or more precisely, I'm hoping it hits that 21,000 mark again, for which I have my eyes on a new Tesla Model 3, whereas my wife on a Tesla Model Y. So I'll have my eyes peeled for any steals offered by Tesla. I also have my name down for a test drive on the new refreshed Model 3 too. Well, that's it from me this week. What did you think of the review and did it help you today? If you did get this far, do drop me a comment, define range odds, and I'll give you a cheeky thumbs up for the support. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share the video with your friends and family. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.